We are back with a brand new video. What is good, Heat Nation? In today's video, we're going to be talking about and going through what lies for the future of the Miami Heat, who are currently 1-4 since the All-Star break, since the acquisitions of both Kevin Love and Cody Zeller. Has not looked good, to say the least. So we're going to be talking about this. Make sure you guys stick around till the end of the video. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. Turn on post notifications and go check out my second channel as well as my Twitter, which will both be in the description. Let's get right into it. So without further ado, we're going to be talking about and we're going to be going through, the future plans for this roster, because I think we can all agree that this season is basically over. It's a wrap. No matter how good that win was against Philly, it's over. The Miami Heat are currently the 7th seed. They're in the play-in right now, and even if we get out of the play-in, I'm not really I'm not excited about the playoffs, to be honest. I think we're gonna be first rounded by whoever we go against between Milwaukee and Boston. Now, obviously, there is a possibility that we get to the 6th seed or the 5th seed, but with how the Knicks have been currently playing, we're like 5 games behind them. We're like 3 games behind Brooklyn. If Brooklyn slides, which they're doing right now, which I expect them to slide because obviously they don't have Kevin Durant or Kyrie anymore, we could jump up to 6 and play the Sixers, and the Sixers, that could be a lot closer than a series with the Bucks or the Celtics, but even so, it's not going to be anything to look forward to, because even if we somehow do beat Philly, we're probably going to get smacked in the second round by whoever we play, whether that's probably going to be Boston, who's the 2 seed, or Milwaukee if they slide to the 2 seed. So basically the season's a wrap. So we're going to be talking about the future of the season. I'm going to be going through each player and talking about what plans the Miami Heat should have for each player. So starting off, we're going to be talking about Jimmy Butler first of all. Now, Jimmy, as we all know, is the face of the franchise, best player on the team, a lot of things. But one thing he is not is young. He's already 33 years old, and last night he had a really good game against the Knicks. He had 33 points, but unfortunately it was in a losing effort. Now, Jimmy has made it clear time and time again that he does not want to be part of teams, who are in losing situations. And the Miami Heat, this has probably been his toughest time in a Heat uniform. Now, even 2021 was pretty tough, but I don't remember a season like this, with Jimmy Butler. Even 2021, I don't think it was as bad as this, because even in 2021 we were still in the playoffs. So this season and this year has probably been the toughest year of Jimmy's career in Miami, in his 4 years here. So it's going to be tough to see what he wants in the future. Now, obviously, there is an argument to be made, and I've seen a lot of people on Twitter making it, that we should just trade Jimmy Butler while his value is high and kind of just reset for the future. Now, the Miami Heat have never been a team who like to completely hit a reset. They've always either been a team who retools in the middle of a pack area and tries to acquire a star to get better. But they don't really do the whole developing. Now, obviously, they did that with Wade. But since Dwayne has been a Heat, since the Big Three era, after LeBron left, after Chris Bosh retired, even after D Wade left, it was never about tanking. It was never about getting a top pick. It was always about being a competitive lottery team, getting the 13th or the 14th pick, which is how we landed both Bam and Tyler, and acquiring a star like Jimmy to pair alongside both of them. Now, obviously, there is an argument, like I said, to be made that we could trade Jimmy Butler while his value is high, and we could sell while his value is high in order to get a younger player. Now, obviously, the logic doesn't, it makes sense. It's not anything far-fetched. It obviously makes sense a little bit that Jimmy Butler, right now the championship window with him as our best player is probably closing, or has already closed. I don't really see, unless the Heat somehow manage to add another star, which I don't really see how they can with the assets that they have, with the amount of bad contracts that they have given. I don't really see another way that this team can contend for a championship in the Jimmy Butler era. So there is an argument to be made that if the window is closed, if the window is truly closed with Jimmy as the best player, he's already 33 years old. Trading him away and getting future assets and rebuilding for the future wouldn't be such a bad idea. You still have Bam and Tyler, but it's conflicting timelines again. And, this is what the Heat have to figure out. Do they want to compete for a championship, or do they want to, rebuild and retool around these two young stars or up-and-coming stars? Like, Bam is a star. Hero might get there soon, but do they want to, build around Bam and Tyler, or do they want to still focus around Jimmy and cater towards his timeline? Now, the Heat without Jimmy Butler and the Heat without Bam Adebayo this season have been absolutely atrocious. Like, their net ratings, their net rating in the past 5 games without Jimmy and Bam on the floor is a -21. So, this is a big disaster. Like, whenever these two are off the floor, at the same time, the team basically collapses. And, the coaching staff has to realize, Spo has to realize that you can't sub Jimmy and Bam at the same time a lot. You got to stagger their substitutions. Obviously, they'll play together for a lot of the game, but even when they're off the floor, both of them cannot be off the floor at the same time. You got to limit those minutes. Because I think that's been the main reason. Well, one of the main reasons we've been losing is because we can't really sustain the minutes that Jimmy and Bam are not on the floor in. So, but yeah, going back to Jimmy, it's kind of do you go with your head? Do you go with your heart? Because my heart wants Jimmy Butler to retire as a Miami Heat. I'm in love with Jimmy Butler. But I'm in love with Jimmy Butler, and I would love for him to retire as a Miami Heat. I just think that, if you're a Heat fan, how can you not love this man? He put us on he put us on his back last year in 2020. He was Superman in the playoffs. How can you not want someone like that on our team? So I think the chances of us trading Jimmy are extremely low, extremely low, because I even think the front office wants him to retire as a Heat. So the emotional side is always okay, we want Jimmy to retire here, so we're not going to trade him. But logically, it kind of does make sense, if you were took all emotions out of it. It kind of does make a little bit of sense if you were to cater on Bam and Tyler for the future. Because right now, I just don't see how we can contend for a championship. If the front office wants to contend for a championship, then they got to do a better job putting a roster around these guys. Because apart from Jimmy and Bam and Hero, the supporting cast is god-awful. So there isn't really anything we can do right now. We just gotta wait until the offseason. But in the offseason, if the plan is to contend and still compete for championships, which is what the Heat have always preached, they've always talked about, we want to win every single season, especially with Jimmy here, they got to do a better job putting together a roster around him. So that's what I'm saying. They got to pick one or the other, because it cannot be. I hate teams who do the whole. I know the Heat did it, and they ended up with Bam and Tyler because, they drafted really well. But I just don't like when teams are in the middle of the pack. I think that's the worst place for a team to be at, because you're not contending, but you're not rebuilding. So it's not like you don't have a clear direction. At least if we were the Orlando Magic, or if we were the Detroit Pistons, even if we were losing games, we're expected to lose because we're a rebuilding team. And if we're Boston or Milwaukee, we're expected to win. So the Heat, it's kind of neither here nor there. It's very, very weird right now as far as where they are in the standings. I think this is the worst part. If you're in the play-in, it's the worst part to be, because you gotta act as if your team can contend, but we all know this team is not a contender. So that's Jimmy. Bam, obviously he's the building block of this team for the future. He's not going anywhere. Tyler, it's interesting with Tyler. Tyler is a very promising young player in this league, but he has to be more consistent. And it all starts with the defensive end for him. Offensively, I know he can struggle to shoot the ball at times, which he did in the past couple of games, except for last night against New York. In the 2 games against Philly, he was atrocious from the field. But I'm not even worried about his offense. It's his defense that I'm extremely worried about, because I was told that he's improving defensively, and I cannot see it, bro. There was a play last night where he just kind of stood there on a fast break, and let someone on the Knicks, I forgot who it was, but someone on the Knicks had an easy transition basket because Hero was just standing and ball watching. So like, it's all about the defensive end for me. And then offensively, again, not too many, like, I don't want to like go at his offensive game because that's his strong suit, but he's got to be able to score without a screen consistently. You know, at times you see flashes where he's scoring, like creating his own shot, but those are just flashes. Like, we haven't seen a consistent product from him as far as creating his own shot consistently from all three levels. Now, he requires a screen almost 80 to 90% of the time, every time he's trying to, you know, score. And if you want to raise your game to the elite scorers in this league, like the Donovan Mitchells and everyone else in this world, you got to be able to show that you can create your own shot without a screen to assist you. You can kind of just go at a matchup one-on-one. Like, he's done that before. It's flashes. That's my only problem. It's not consistent, and that's the biggest problem with Hero, is that his offense is not consistent and his defense is nowhere near good enough. If he gets his defense to even average, and if he makes his offense more consistent, we got a really good player in our hands there for the future. We still do, but he could be a lot better if he fixes those two things. Kyle Lowry, it's time to go. Like, in the offseason, he's probably gonna get shipped off somewhere. I don't know what's going on with him. You know, he was supposed to come back against Philly. He was like listed as questionable. Then he missed both games against Philly. He missed the game against New York. I don't know if he just wanted to go see his family in Philly, but I don't know what's going on there. But it just looks like something's like strained with the Heat and Lowry. So I think that relationship is probably gone. Oladipo, you know, it was a fun story, you know, coming back from his injury, but he just looks cooked. He does not look like the same, even like close to anything close to like what we're used to seeing from him. And obviously, like, he is a free agent next season. I wouldn't mind if he was using a trade package for a bigger star, or even for like a rebuilding piece, depending on what direction we pick. Jovic, to be honest, is like, I haven't really seen much of him play this season. He's been injured. Apparently, he still has not graduated high school. TBD on that one. We got to see how he plays next season. But I do have high hopes for him. I think he can be a very, very good fit in the system. Strus, let walk. We can let Max Strus go. He's gonna demand a lot of money, and it's not even about the fact that he's not a good player, because he is a good player. He's not a bad player at all, but he's just not gonna be worth the amount of money that he's gonna be asking for in a shooter's market. So he can go. Duncan Robinson's contract, one of the worst in the NBA, if we're talking about Robinson. And yeah, to be honest, man, I mean, I would love to ship him off right now, but like, any team that's taking out his contract is going to ask for a pick. So at this point, you might as well just cut your losses and keep him until his contract is expired, because I don't know if I want to give up a pick, you know, along with Duncan Robinson's contract, unless it's for like a star player. If it's for a star player, you can take all the picks you want. But yeah, Duncan Robinson, one of the worst contracts in the NBA. Udonis Haslem, OG, I love you, bro. It's time to retire. Like, at this point, like, I know this is his last season, so he's gonna be gone after this season anyway. But it was a fun 20 years. UD, I'm sorry that your last year had to be like this. Like, I would have loved for UD last year to end in a parade or something, but unfortunately, you know, it's not gonna be that way. But still, Heat legend, Miami legend, 305 legend, and he's gonna be. You know, he's like the least of our problems anyway. So OG can retire after this season happily. Gabe Vincent, I'm sorry, bro. Like, very inconsistent against Philly. Against Philly in that second game, in Miami, a couple nights ago, he was so bad, bro. He shot 2 for 11. He was terrible on both ends, and it kind of depends on like how much money he's gonna want. I don't see him as a starter, maybe as a backup at best, but we'll see depending on how much money he wants. Caleb Martin, I actually think Caleb Martin's a keeper, to be honest, and a lot of people might disagree on this one, but I think Caleb Martin would fit a lot of winning teams. Now, obviously not as a starting power forward, which is what he was misused as at the beginning of the season, but as someone who can kind of be a Swiss Army knife off the bench, I love Caleb. One of my favorite players on this team. Orlando Robinson, two-way guy, yet to be determined, but has promise. Haywood Highsmith, I mean, like, I don't know. There are flashes offensively. Defensively, he's really good, but you cannot be in this league. You can't be a player who just plays one end, especially if it's only the defensive. You can get away with playing only one end if you're a scorer, but if you're just a defender and if you can't do anything on the offensive end, it's going to be extremely hard for you to get minutes, unless you're like PJ Tucker. At least PJ Tucker is like known for corner threes. He'll guarantee you one corner three a night. If Haywood Highsmith can be a mini PJ for this team, then sure, you can stick around. He's not really any of our concerns. His contract isn't big or anything. He's still a young player, but yeah, he's got to polish up offense. We can't have him only playing the defensive side of the ball, dog. It's gonna be extremely difficult to play him, especially in the playoffs, because teams will just let him shoot, and he's gonna have to make him pay. Omer Yurtseven, I heard he put up like 27 and 10 in the G League. I'm excited for his return, and I do want to see what he has in store. There was a lot of promise last season. The plan initially was to start him alongside Bam, so we'll see how that works. But I'm extremely excited to see him back and returning, and I think that's something to look forward to. Kevin Love, Kevin Love, he hasn't been terrible since he's come to the Heat, but like, we cannot ignore that since he's been put in the starting lineup, the defensive rating has gone down a lot. And I'm not even concerned about the three-point shooting of this team. It's more about the defense, because this team has always been a good defensive team. But ever since we got Kevin Love into the starting lineup, and it's not all Kevin Love's fault, it's just because now you have 2 to 3 defensive liabilities in your starting lineup rather than just one, which was Hero, or 1.5 Hero and Lowry. Lowry's a liability at this point too. So, but yeah, Love, he can stretch the floor and all, but he's kind of just like, when something breaks and when you put like Scotch tape over it, Scotch tape is like a temporary fix. It's not something that's going to be adhesive. It's not going to hold you forever. Instead of putting like duct tape or like super glue or something like that, that's going to be a permanent fix. Kevin Love is Scotch tape. He's not duct tape. He's not super glue. He's just a temporary hole, like solution to our hole at the 4 right now. And we got to figure out this whole defensive thing with him in the starting lineup, because it's been terrible with him in the starting lineup. So that's the only complaint that I have about Kevin Love, is the defensive rating with him has been atrocious. But apart from that, he hasn't played bad in a Heat uniform. I don't really have many other complaints. Cody Zeller, again, probably going to walk in free agency. Not much to say about him, but that is your Miami Heat roster essentially. I didn't talk about Kane and Bouye because they're basically on two-way deals as well. So, yeah, that's basically your Miami Heat roster alongside Jimmy, Bam, and Tyler. And you tell me why people expected us to contend for a championship, because these names that I'm reading out, none of these names are anything special. So if the front office thinks that they want to compete for a championship next year, then in the offseason they got to do some serious retooling of this team. They got to get a star. Somehow they got to attract a star or trade for one. And they got to figure out how to get all these bad contracts off the team as soon as possible. And, hopefully next year will be a lot better. But they got to pick a direction first and foremost. I think the chances of them trading Jimmy are extremely low. But it's still a chance because, like I said, it does make a little bit of sense to give him up while he's high. While he's at a high, while he's playing well, while he's not regressing. So let me know what you guys will do in the comment section below, man. Again, a lot of work to be done at the offseason, but that's what I'm excited for. I'll see y'all later as always. Have a nice day. Peace.